Welcome everyone to No Fox Given. I have with me Abhinandan Sekri, who is the founder and CEO of News Laundry, which is an independent media outlet based in India. Welcome, Abhinandan.
Thank you,
Thank
Neha.
you.
Pleasure being here.
And thank you for joining me. And Eid Mubarak. Thank you. And our topic today, because it's, cuisine as a political tool, I just thought it's very auspicious that we are having this discussion on Eid, given
Hmm.
all the political events leading up to this particular Eid this year. Let's talk first a little bit about what's been happening in West Bengal with the new BJP government there and the attempted ban on slaughter of cows leading up to Eid and how that all shaped up in the last few weeks.
So I think this is a BJP flex of their entire cultural project, which in my view was the only project they had to begin with. There's no economic project or plan. There is no other significant project. It was always a cultural project. Now, for example, in Delhi, Kapil Mishra, who's not sure what portfolio he has in Delhi, said we will not allow cows to be cut on Eid. When was it allowed for cows to be cut on Eid in Delhi? It is just you reiterate stuff that was already there, or you say it louder, or you say it as a dog whistle. So this entire, flexing of my meat versus your meat, or those buffoons of the BJP who went and started before the Bengal election, dismantling the fish shops in Chittaranjan Park. And then, of course, the BJP told them, go and apologize because you cannot win Bengal if you tell them not to eat fish. So then suddenly they became non-veg there and Anurag Thakur stuffing his face with fish. So, I mean, I just find the use of cuisine and meats. They are dog whistles. There's no consistency. It's a free for all. Whatever works, works. Whatever sticks, sticks. And because our media does such a terrible job of interrogating or investigating incidents, episodes, statements by people who matter, they get away with it. So that's where we are, basically.
But the interesting thing to me in specifically in West Bengal was that it's a very Muslim majority state, and the elections, the timing of it, and the victory of the BJP was just a few weeks before Eid, and so it led to this whole noise around we will not let you slaughter the cows. And I think, and I'm saying the way the politics played out was very interesting. That the Muslim leadership got together and said, we'll make a big deal of the fact that we will not slaughter any cows and refusing to buy and really calling the bluff. Because as you
Yeah.
said, it was just, restating things just for attention without really thinking about the economic impact on their voter base, which led to, this particular, I think it was a masterstroke, I think, on the part of the Muslim leadership to start owning, this particular issue of preventing the cow ban.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that'll achieve anything. I mean, even Bapu had said, like, turning the other cheek would not work with adversary who did not understand or appreciate a morally higher ground. He says the British, for all their flaws, were cognizant of there is a morally higher ground.
Yeah.
Against an adversary like Hitler, there is no morally high ground. You can do the most horrible things and it's all
But
good.
is this morally high ground, or is this a very clever move to expose the fact that the people who are going to get impacted, the people who are selling the beef, are actually Hindu owners? Because, I mean, ironically, India is also the third largest beef exporter in the world, right?
Neha, this film has played out before. Indian Express had done a detailed and excellent report, I think, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was a full page report on this particular forest in Madhya Pradesh that had become a health hazard because it had just so many cow carcasses, because normally which would be sold to Muslim to make leather, to make other stuff. They said, we're not going to touch these because you could get lynched. So when cow or buffalo became unproductive, they would just go and leave it in this forest to die. And everyone started doing it. And there were hundreds of carcasses there, if not thousands, rotting away.
Yeah.
But what did that do? Of course, people's lives were impacted. The economic outcomes are impacted. But in a game as rigged as the media is, as investigating agencies are, see, right now, I mean, since we're talking politics and, we'll do the intersection of food and politics, you don't even have to win an election to win a state.
Yeah.
You can lose an election and break the party later and win.
Yeah.
It's happened in Madhya Pradesh. It's happened in Goa. It's happened in Maharashtra. They're trying that in Punjab. What I'm saying is the whole concept of what is winning and losing, they've turned on its head. You can lose and a year later still win.
You don't need to get the votes, really. You can even get the end of
The ways of just. So I think it's elections have become a non-serious issue, unfortunately.
Yeah. Which then means that there is no pressure on the government to do anything other than create
Exactly. Governance
unique
does not
sort of,
matter. Correct.
yeah,
You take Delhi's example.
yeah.
Delhi in the last 5 months has become a disaster zone, yeah, with garbage piling up, no one following traffic rules, free for all, because that's what they know now. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah. And so moving beyond beef as well, right? I mean, the beef narrative has been now building up for the last 2 decades. We've had, the Muhammad Clark incident in Dadri in 2015, Pehlu Khan, and there were these, I mean, incidents of hate-related murders, which were just based on some whim or suspicion that someone was storing beef. And 10 years later, it's not going anywhere. In fact, I'm seeing video reels, and you can tell me how true it is because I'm based outside the country, of Hindus keeping pigs in their homes and neighborhoods to irk Muslims. It's just that kind of nastiness
Yeah,
that wasn't there. But even
happen in the
pure
society. Yeah.
vegetarianism, right? It's being weaponized and institutionalized. When was pure vegetarianism even a? I mean, yes, it's been glorified a little bit in the scriptures as a virtue to aspire to in the Hindu scriptures, but in South Asia, in pre-partition India, if you take Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India together, we have the largest population of Muslims and have had for hundreds of centuries. What about Dalit diets? It's a fairly varied diet. It's not vegetarian. We're talking about Adivasi diets. And heck, even in Hindus, right? Kshatriyas, Rajputs eat meat, even Kashmiri Pandits eat meat. And suddenly we've got this pure vegetarianism. The scriptures also, Ramayana, Mahabharata, they all have examples of even beef eating. Can you talk a little bit about, this? Is this an orchestrated sort of movement? And I mean, I know the answer, but for the purpose of people who don't, and who's it benefiting, and where do you see it heading? Like, where does it keeps getting worse, right? So where are we headed with this?
You're absolutely right. It doesn't take into account many of the diets, which include meat. This vegetarianism as this Hindu thing is, I'm not a scholar of scriptures, so I'm not going to say whether scriptures tell us or don't tell us to eat meat. I know Buddha is often quoted as being non vegetarian and, in fact, having died because he consumed infected meat. But in sheer numbers, yes, we are not a majority vegetarian country. We have such a large coast, so it is inevitable that we will have people who eat fish and shellfish. But it is a very narrow interpretation of a certain, Brahminical purity that comes from an RSS kind of mindset. And since right now the prime minister of the country is a product of the RSS, that is their understanding, which is also, it's not just limited to diet, it's also limited to linguistic chauvinism, which is why they're so unpopular in Tamil Nadu. Every now and then, even though they try to, tiptoe around the issue, it slips out. Hindi you should learn. And Tamilians say, why the hell should we learn Hindi? So that's a very narrow interpretation of what is the dietary culture, what should people eat. And of course, you also have these influencers. We're in the age of Insta influencers. I've seen a bunch of them, who start their greeting and every reel with a Jai Shri Ram. And then they tell you that you can become an international level wrestler or athlete by a pure vegetarian diet. And they give the example of a few of the wrestlers that India has produced who are veggie wrestlers. Now, what they don't tell you is what do those wrestlers look like when they stop wrestling? Because the quantities of badam or chana or stuff they have to eat to make up their protein intake is so big that they are unwieldy, obese, hideous creatures. Because you cannot be 100-kilo wrestler and be pure vegetarian, and then after you've stopped being a professional, bring your diet down to this much. It ain't happening. Not just the kind of other supplements you need. That I What I'd say is, which is why leadership matters. Like the menu, when foreign dignitaries come, that menu that went viral on Twitter, this very unappetizing, extremely boring sounding pure veg menu which had dhokla and fafda and what all. You're serving this to. So, in fact, foreign correspondent who was on our podcast, in fact, the finest in the country, Hasini, was telling us that the diplomats will all say when we come for the dinners hosted by the president, prime minister, we go back and order room service in the hotel. Because we don't. Like, who are you serving this for? So, it's all posturing, it's optics.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I just think it is, and like I said, this stuff would not matter.
yeah.
We would not be talking about it. It would not be part of the national narrative if you had an economic agenda, if you had an economic project. There is no economic project. This is the only project. What you will sing, what you will say, what you will eat, who you will sleep with, that is it. I'm not exaggerating. They are a version of the Taliban. They have that envy. इसलिए इसी के बारे में बात करते हैं सब. वो भी इसी के बारे
Name
में बात करते हैं.
changes of cities and
And look at NEET paper leak, the CBSE mess, a leadership that does not value education, science, educated people. They are a meeker version of Pol Pot. So this is their only agenda. Why you will eat, what you will eat, random people pulling you over. We did a documentary on this Monu Manesar, cow vigilantes, so to speak. So most of these cow vigilantes have complete immunity from the state.
Yeah.
So
So that, and actually, you touched upon Tamil Nadu. There's this effort to homogenize an identity, the national, identity and what it should look like. Different attributes are food, language, what you wear, what you sing, etc. But then we have very strong regional identities in India also, right? And therefore, Tamil Nadu pushing back on their language. And so it reminded me of the UP, right? The one district, one cuisine list. 6 months after UNESCO in Uzbekistan declared Lucknow, what was it? Creative city of gastronomy, and specifically in its citation talks about galauti kebabs and talks about the Awadhi biryani. And the one district, one cuisine eliminates not just these, but every non-veg dish. And UP is the hub. I mean, the Mughals have done the maximum for what we are proud of in our cuisine today. And it's almost, I mean, again, can you talk a little bit about what you see the impact of that will be? I mean, there's an economic cost to that. I mean, so there's a socio-economic cost to that. And, and there is an impact on how you see yourselves, your identity as well, right? And again, UP, the largest exporter of beef in the country.
So I don't have the data on that, although Paravan has done a story on the company that exports beef where it's based, it's got political links, etc. But on that list that you're talking about, it was laughable. We discussed on our podcast also. It was really silly.
Yeah.
Because there's such interesting stories around biryanis there, the meats, the giloti kebab. Just like, I don't know if it's true or not, but the whole Earl of Sandwich inventing the sandwich because he didn't want to leave his table. That's why his cook said, okay, so you want to leave because he loved playing bridge or something. So just bring me something I can eat while playing.
Yeah, and there are
And apparently
multiple
that
beautiful stories about Galauti and the
all
Nawab
the
who was
cuisine of
toothless and
wanted
the
to,
food.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, they had stuff like I think some Noida bakery or something.
No, yeah.
There were
Some
bakeries and breads of Noida which I've never heard of. So, when you said there's an economic cost, I come back to they don't care. There is no
I
economic
mean,
project.
there is, you're building up, like people want to visit Lucknow after this, right? You want to try the cuisine. If you are if the state is sponsoring certain kinds of foods and negating the others, I was reading some assessment of that, and it is you're reshaping what it means to belong to UP, isn't it? And
Yeah.
so far, I mean, they were very proud of people when it came to.
And even then, you have done a great job. You could have done Hazratganj ki chaat, which was not there. I used to shoot travel shows between 2003, 4 till about 2014, 15. Must have shot about 200, 250 episodes of various travel shows, the most of them being Highway on My Plate, which is, I think, one of the longest running food and travel shows in the country. So I've shot in Lucknow several times. Not just Lucknow, so many parts of UP. In fact, some meets in the royal family of Madhya Pradesh also. What was the place called? Rewa. They have some recipes that have been passed down generations.
Yeah.
Hindu royal family.
So my question is, are we just erasing the Mughal part because so
Yeah,
much
yeah,
of the
basically,
cuisine is colonial, right?
we're not just erasing the Mughal part because, again, I come to the point that they have connected a very narrow understanding of Hinduism or our culture, and meat is not part of that. So, meat is Mughal. Like I was talking about the royal family of Rewa, where I've shot with, and they have some recipes that are passed down generations, which are meat recipes as well. Now, there are enough royal families in India. You go to Rajasthan,
Yeah.
you have many, that food that you cook, you bury it in the hot sand and you make it. I forget what it's
And
called.
lal mas and all kinds of things. Yeah.
It's like it doesn't exist because their understanding is the Mughals made us eat meat, before that we were veg. So even if it's a Hindu recipe, it will not be accepted because it has to be veg. You see, Yogi ji is veg, Modi ji is veg, and they're very proud of the veg. Like, it's not like, is your hair curly or straight? It's not a question of, oh, I'm proud it's straight, or I'm proud it's curly. It is just a matter of fact. There's no virtue related to having one way or the other. Similarly, whether I'm a meat eater or non-meat eater, it is just like that. It's an observation.
Yeah.
You see, do you like anything? I have two hands, I have one nose. It's just a part of. But हम तो vegetarian हैं, जैसे कि आपने झंडा गाड़ दिया. That understanding that it is some sort of achievement makes it a virtue, and therefore, if it's not a virtue, it could not be Hindu. None of us used to eat meat till came. They said ये लो meat try करो, हमने तो पहले पता ही नहीं था. So it is such a daft and dumb understanding of how societies evolve, how species evolve. But that's where we are now. What can
And
I
so
say?
colonial rule doesn't seem to matter. I mean, because if they do that, then chai, potatoes, pav. I mean, Shiv Sena has often associated itself, with the Marathi identity, which again, that's when I'm talking about the regional identities are strong, but then they tend to adopt the vada pav. Vada pav wasn't there till the 1960s, and every single thing that goes into the vada pav has a colonial story. I mean, the pav is Portuguese, literally. They came and set up those
Yeah.
bakeries, and I mean, regional pride is very strong, and when I was reading stories about Odisha and Bengal fighting over the rasgulla, you see how much pride people take in their food on dishes that are
Yeah.
barely 100 years old, and yet similarly, the national identity is trying to pin itself into this random sort of. There's no time period that's being associated with it, and there is all that, and so it's anti-Mughal, it's anti. So it takes a little bit of understanding what those nuances are that have been picked up and what haven't. So let's talk about, you were talking about the foreign dignitaries and what they have served. Thailand and Korea, they do this gastro diplomacy where they promote their cultures in a very systematic, sponsored manner outside the country. You see a Thai restaurant everywhere, and most of the time, I used to wonder when I came to the US, how do they survive with such little traffic? And over the last 10, 15 years, I've seen Korean culture get very prominent. It's not just K-pop, it's food and language and, amongst the youngsters. I just wonder what the government I mean, on one hand, do you see them trying to promote something like that? I'm seeing a lot of regional Indian cuisine abroad now suddenly flexing. It's not butter chicken. They will, all the top, New York used to be Lexington kind of curry houses, and suddenly there's a competition for regional South Indian, Bengali. But in this whole mix, do you see a play for a political tool? Do you see the government trying to, own or disown some sort of a narrative? Because Indians abroad are now, taking pride in associating with the cuisine and saying, see how diverse it is.
Yeah, so I think especially Indians who are trying to make a living abroad
Yeah,
are doing it with an entrepreneurial mindset.
yeah,
If they think there's a market for a particular kind of cuisine, they can market something that's interesting. They are doing it. It is not like they're getting any subsidy or benefits from the government. For example, K-pop was an export of the government of South
government,
Korea.
exactly. Yeah,
They gave a huge push. They spent millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. So no such thing has happened with what Indian cuisine you're talking about.
yeah.
So because I keep hopping on the same thing, because there is no economic project.
There's no agenda. Yeah, yeah,
So if there is no economic project, then there is nothing that is top of mind. Otherwise, what was our biggest soft power in the world? Bollywood, cinema. They have finished the cinema in India. You have to make films that are trashing a community or a country.
yeah, yeah,
Otherwise, you don't get to make a film. In the last 10, 15 years, just trash has come out of here. India always used to produce a lot of trash, a lot of fine cinema, a lot of offbeat cinema. It was a very diverse bouquet of stuff we used to produce.
yeah,
Now it's just one type. It is one type of film that will get funded, that will get released. Otherwise, your film ain't going anywhere. So, which already they had a bana banaya cake,
yeah,
the soft power of Bollywood.
yeah,
They have managed to shit on that. Forget trying to create a new soft power through cuisine. वो उनके बस का ही नहीं है.
yeah.
I wouldn't hold my breath on that.
Yeah, so you won't see them doing it. If you did it, it's probably going to be a version of the food that is being served to dignitaries, but you're not seeing that or that amount of confidence, I would say. And I
Yeah,
think the regional pushbacks also, I mean, I think it's a moot question because you're seeing the South also is a very Hindu. I mean, there are lots of temples. It's a very Hindu dominant community, but wants to showcase the fact that we do this differently from the way you do it
right.
in the north. I've seen speeches even by, you know, I think it was Shashi Tharoor talking about how Kerala's experience with Islam has been very different, and don't try to impose, your negative associations in the north that they're leaning on down south, etc. So I guess this conflict will carry on for a while. I'll wait to see it. So, but on a happier note, is there a dish that you can think of, and this is just a lighter question, a single dish or ingredient that will embody the complex political tensions that you're seeing in India today, or South Asia for that matter?
That's a
What
tough
do you
one.
think would represent it?
I don't know, khichdi
Khichdi is a very funny one. Yes, it's a good one. And khichdi, actually, when you become serious about it, it has a lot of depth and historical,
and a khichdi with meat in it, not the veg khichdi.
not the veg khichdi. Yeah.
Even I'll say Uncle Chips, yeah. Very good to taste, but is finishing your body. That is what we are seeing in the with the kind of narratives and how our electoral electorate is kept amused by our media. Eat nonsense, finish your health.
One quick question also, it came in my mind, associated with culinary traditions, the kitchen has always in the Hindu household especially been kept a little separate, and it's sort of governed by notions of purity, etc. I'm just wondering how much of that impacts does that kind of casteism continue even now in politics in terms of who you hire, restaurant culture, etc.
I mean, I don't know about restaurants and other stuff, but I mean,
Domestic health, yeah,
it's definitely a thing. You see cases of that in our daily
continue,
lives. You read
yeah,
about it in newspapers, whether it is access to wells, whether it is where you see that in schools, yeah, in the
yeah,
midday meals.
yeah,
Dalit children are fed with. So that it's happening in various degrees in various parts of the country. I'm not saying it's happening everywhere like in Delhi, but yeah, it is real. That discrimination exists, especially during meal times. In fact, there was this one case where parents of a government school refused to send their children because the woman who was preparing their meals was not of what they thought a caste that should be in a kitchen.
yeah.
So yeah, we see
So that's a right
disgustingly.
breeding ground for this kind of. But- so yeah, so the world over, breaking bread is a metaphor for peace and harmony and sitting together. Do you see anybody having khichdi together in the near future in India, or do you think
I
it's going
think
to be
there's
a long
always
struggle?
hope.
Yeah,
I always think there's hope. I think
yeah,
we have it in ourselves to reach across the aisle and sit together and be sensible. But leadership has to initiate that. And if your leadership doesn't want it, it's not going to happen, which is why leadership matters.
yeah.
I've seen a lot of narratives is that we pretend as if leadership doesn't matter. Leaders determine what is valued, what is incentivized. So I definitely think as a people, sure, we can do that. But our leaders have to show us the way. And our leaders right now, unfortunately, are not interested. And by leaders, I mean the party in power, which is just so powerful right now. And if they're not interested, the likelihood of it becomes less.
So we are going to look to maybe cockroaches who are surviving and showing us
Fully,
the
let's
way.
say.
Yeah. But thanks so much, Abhinandan. It was a pleasure having you, and catch up with you soon.
Yes, Neha, thank you so much. Have a great day.